everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to do kind of a double book review. I'll be reviewing the House in the Cerulean Sea and Nothing to See Here. So for my treat for this review, I have some ice cream, because in the House in the Cerulean Sea they go to the ice cream shop to get some ice cream. So I have some ice cream. It's salted caramel with some chocolate sauce on it. Okay, so today what I want to talk about with regard to these two books are books that end kind of like happily ever after. And I think that there's a way that, at least for me, that it's done right. And then there's a way that I don't like that much. And it kind of annoys me. So one of these books was a kind of a happily ever after, and I felt like they did it right. And the other one, they did not. So I'm going to start with the one that I feel like got it right. And that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So this book, what I heard about it was that it's kind of like reading a warm hug. It's a fairy tale made for adults. And I kind of, because of that, I was reluctant to read it, because I didn't know, I'm usually not someone who likes everything ends happily ever after, because normally I find that they don't do it well, or it just seems cheesy or corny. And this one kind of hit the mark. This was like they said, it was a fairy tale for adults, and I just felt like that they hit on it so well that I understand now why people like happily ever after. So this book follows a man named Linus Baker. He lives a very simple life. He's really good at his job. He's a caseworker for a organization that takes care of magical youth. And his job is to make sure that an orphanage or something like that is run properly and is doing right by the children that they house. So he's basically just kind of a paper pusher, but he does his job really well. I don't get the impression that he really likes his life or dislikes his life. He just kind of goes through his life and does what he does. And the thing I liked about the character is that, you could completely, I could identify that here's a man that has become comfortable with his life, and he doesn't expect anything from life, and he's not excited about anything that happens, and he's just kind of just boring, regular person. But I felt like I got to know what he was all about, and that even though someone from the outside was like, wow, like what kind of a sad life, and he's just like, no, it's good, I'm good. So he is the agency that he works for sends him to the House in the Cerulean Sea, which is this orphanage that takes care of magical youth, and he is to evaluate them. And what he finds is that there is a certain youth there that they are concerned about. Of course, this is Lucifer, this is the Antichrist, and they call him Lucy. And they're concerned about how this youth is being raised, and if, of course, one day he's going to destroy the world. When he goes there, the master of the orphanage, Arthur Parnassus, is, just trying to show him, like, this is the way that we do things here. And Linus doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to leave his life to go to this house. He doesn't like that his job has sent them there. And he just, for the first part while he's there, he just kind of wants to go back to his regular, normal life. And I felt like I understood the struggle that he was going through. That here he was asked to do something that he doesn't want to do. And in the process, he finds a family. He finds that these children that the world has turned their back on, that he cares about them. That this man, Arthur Parnassus, who runs this orphanage, is somebody that he could care about. And I think the great thing about it was the characters and how you saw their struggles. And that by the end, Linus has decided that maybe what he's been doing isn't so noble. He always thought that his job was noble and that he was saving children. And he thinks maybe that's not what it's about anymore. And that he needs to do something more with his life. And not only that maybe he has found a place where he belongs and he fits in. And I love that he was older and that he found a family and he found the things that he cared about. And I think that the conflict in the book was real. The author did a really good job of saying, like, yes, this book ends well, it ends happily ever after. And now there is this family. But you also understood it doesn't mean that everything's perfect. They still have to raise Lucifer. And this child could or could not destroy the world. And they have to take that into account. They have these other magical youth that they're taking care of who are also kind of shunned by society. And the town that's just off the island has pretty much said that, they're not welcome there. And at the end, they're starting to say, like, hey, let's go. Well, throughout the book, they're kind of saying, like, let's go to the town over there and just see what it's like and see if we can get people to accept us. And, it's kind of a slow process, but by the end, that wasn't necessarily all the way resolved. And so, even though the book ended happy and it had a happily ever after, I felt like there was still more. Like, it didn't solve everyone's problems. It didn't leave you with the taste like, oh, the world just now is magical and just going to, all the problems are going to be solved. They have to solve things together. And as a family, that's what they're doing. They're going to solve their problems together. And I guess my final thoughts about it were that I felt like I struggled with these characters, that I understood the internal struggles that they had and the things that were important to them, the things that they wanted out of their lives. And the fact that these characters weren't perfect are kind of what made the story great. And that even though it ended well, we knew that life wasn't going to magically become easier for them. That's how I felt like they did it right. That there's still some conflict at the end, and not every problem gets solved. But the important thing is that they are all together, and they are going to work through whatever trials and tribulations come their way. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This book also ends happily ever after, and I felt like that it was not done as well. So this story it has kind of some similar components. There's this woman, she's in her late 20s. She hasn't done a whole lot with her life. Apparently when she was younger, she had a lot of potential, but she didn't really live up to it. She went to this camp where she meets another girl, ends up taking the fall for this girl for something that this girl did, and gets kicked out of camp. And this camp was supposed to be something that could have put her on track for a better life. And I don't know if I would say like that incident or that camp was what caused all her to kind of give up on what she wanted with her life. But there's not really much else to go on. It's like that this incident at camp clearly had this effect on her life. And how much of an effect, it's hard to say. Her and the girl that she met at this camp, they keep in touch over the years. They contact each other a few times a year. Hi, baby girl. Hi, baby girl. Go on. So we follow the woman Lillian, and Lillian lives with her mom. She works a couple of jobs at minimum wage and doesn't really do a whole lot other than that. She's contacted by Madison, the girl that she met at camp at one point, and Madison says, hey, I need your help. My husband's ex-wife has passed away, and we now need to take care of their children, and I would like you to take care of these children. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, they light on fire when they get agitated. So the premise is interesting. You know, this woman who hasn't really accomplished a whole lot goes to help out her friend and take care of these children who tend to light themselves on fire. I think the biggest problem I had is that the characters seemed so flat, so one-sided. Here are these children, and their mother committed suicide, and these children are just happily accept this woman who's a complete stranger, is related to them in no way, and who has just been hired to take care of them and be their family from now on. And they're just kind of okay with it. They don't seem to have any residual effects of clearly a trauma that they have been through. And it sounds like, they've been neglected, and they went to live with their grandparents where they were waiting for their dad to come and get them, and they didn't like it there, and their grandparents didn't care about them. But they meet this woman, and suddenly everything's perfect. And I mean, like, nothing bad happens after that. Or at least if it did, I mean, there were some things that happened, but I didn't feel like the conflict was all that big. And every problem that they have, there seemed to be this magical solution. She talks to her friend and suddenly it's solved. The struggles in the book didn't make me love it. The struggles in the book, I won't say like I hated it or that it made me want to stop reading. They just seemed so simple and so small on things that were really serious. You know, trying to take care of children, even if they don't have light on fire, if they're not yours, comes with all sorts of problems. And this kind of made it sound like it's just easy to take some children who've been neglected, who've been through a trauma of watching their mother die, and suddenly you can just magically move in and make them food in the morning and make sure that they stay calm by doing yoga and playing in the swimming pool so that they don't light things on fire, and somehow everything just turns out okay. So overall, I'm not the type of person who likes most books that end happily ever after, and the reason is most of them are like this. They're superficial. You don't get to know the characters. You don't get to know their struggles, and a lot of times a lot of the big conflicts they have just kind of magically get solved. So I much prefer ones that if they do have a happily ever after, that we know that life doesn't just magically become perfect, and that you still have to work toward goals and the things that you want out of your life. So that's kind of my take on those two books. If you like this video, you can please like and subscribe. I put new videos out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And, make sure you enjoy some treats that go along with your books.